Yes, sir. This is how it goes down in Mobile, Alabama. When we get rain, we get rain. So we're here. We got the bus and the bug. We're stuck under this barn, so we're going to try to do something productive with it and install an RPM gauge into Roxanne over here. Okay, in case this works, we'll make a video of it. We just went up to the auto parts store and bought this RPM gauge. We're going to put it in Roxanne. We haven't even messed with the wiring yet. Right now we're still looking for a good place to put it. So we've looked everywhere along this dash. Somebody has put one in there before, and I think they tried to use hot glue and it didn't stay. I don't want to do that. I want mine around this area. Okay, now that the rain slowed down enough to where you can hear my voice, I'll show you where we're at. I'm laying on the floor right here beside the steering column so that you have an idea of where I'm at with these two bolts. They were very short, about that long. I want to put a bracket there, so we needed a longer bolt. We found one, and it's gonna go into that hole. What's it gonna hold? This bracket. It came with the EQUUS RPM gauge that I bought. So what it needs to do is orientate. Let me switch hands. Like this. So that hole in the middle of the bracket, the middle one, was already there. The one on the left there, I just drilled out, and I'm gonna use it to put the long bolt I showed you in there and hold this bracket in. What I'm hoping is, in the beginning I thought I'd be drilling 2 new holes to also use this one. But what I'm feeling like is if I get that one on there, it's gonna be a pretty secure fit. And that should hold my gauge onto this part of the bracket. So we're gonna move forward and see how that works out. So there it is. We're only gonna use the one for now. It's holding it real tight. I did bend this part forward a little bit. We got it at a pretty good angle, but I bent it forward so that the gauge would point upwards a little bit, and you can see it from the driver's seat. There's a good pic of how we got the bracket mounted so far, and this is where we are. All right, that's the spot for it. That's where it ended up. The only concern was getting in the way of shifting, but you can see this isn't a normal knob anyway. It does have an extra size to it, but when I drive, I shift like that. Second, third, fourth, say back into first. So it's not in the way at all. We like where it's sitting. Going to get to work on getting it wired up. All right, the 4 wires coming off of the back are white, red, black, and green. That's coming off the back of the gauge. The black one we found a good place for. It's a chassis ground. That's the one we've already hooked up. The white goes to the fuse box panel lights. The red is going to go to the fuse box at a switched 12-volt source. The green goes to the negative side of the ignition coil, which is all the way in the back of the bus, or an appropriate tachometer signal source. Okay, the next one we're going to look for is there's the gauge. There's the red wire coming off the back of it. We want to look for a 12-volt switched power source at the fuse box to connect this. So here's the fuse box. I'm gonna deal with this rat nest eventually. If you have a Volkswagen, you know how it is. So right now my light is showing that is constant because the switch is not turned on yet. That is constant. See, it's lighting up with no switch on. That one's not on, not on. Okay, now we're going to turn the switch on. Back to the fuse box, and we're going to test this one. All right, we're now getting the light. We weren't getting the light on this one before. Now with the ignition key turned on, we're getting a light. So that's the one we'll hook our red wire from the gauge to. Okay, we found a switched 12-volt fuse on the fuse box, and we now have the red wire hooked up to that. We have the black wire hooked to the chassis ground. Now we're looking for a place to put this white wire. It says on the panel lights fuse box. Down here, there's no particular one that's for all of the panel lights on this bus. So what we've done is we found one going to the tail lights. All right, switching on, and see how bright that light is. There were some others that would qualify, but this one was throwing the brightest light, so we're going to hook the white one into there. Okay, that leaves us with every wire hooked up coming off the back of this except for the green one, which needs to go to the ignition coil. But what we have good enough on there now is good enough for this. All right, we'll take a look at what the finished product looks like. First of all, the last wire I spoke of is right here. That red wire that comes off of your gauge needs to go to the negative on your ignition cord. Follow that red wire. Line goes through the firewall. Back here. Same spot all the other wiring does. The hard part is it goes under the bus. We had to chase it through there with like an electrician's cable. It was a bit stiff, and so we ran it through there, through the tube that runs underneath the bus, and then we taped that wire to it and pulled it back to us. Not like electricians do. But I'll show you the gauge on the inside. Well, there you have it. Roxanne now has a tachometer installed. Please feel free to like and subscribe if this video helped you. If not, leave some tips and comments so that we can expand our knowledge. We're always learning, and as always, thanks for watching.